Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to day 10 of our Bhakti Vaibhava seminar on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6. And we are more or less in the middle somewhere of chapter 4. Let's just have a look here. We're in the 5th section, which is from verse 22 to verse 34, and it's titled the Hansaguya Prayers. And let's just have a look here. And we are continuing on from verse 26. First of all, our prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchkapacharubhyas cha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Yes, okay, so chapter 4 verse 26, and it's the section dealing with the Hansaguya prayers which are spoken by Daksha to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Interesting person, Daksha. Oh, very interesting person. But here, looks like he's really a changed man, because his prayers are really pretty Krishna conscious. Oh yeah. Okay, so here we go, devotees. Let's see, verse 26. When one's consciousness is completely purified of the contamination of material existence, gross and subtle, without being agitated, as in the working and dreaming states, and when the mind is not dissolved, as in sushupti, deep sleep, one comes to the platform of trance. Then one's material vision and the memories of the mind, which manifests names and forms, are vanquished. Only in such a trance is the Supreme Personality of Godhead revealed. Thus, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is seen in that uncontaminated, transcendental state. Right, okay. Let's have a look at Srila Prabhupada's purport here. You know, Prabhupada comes up with all these profound and very interesting aspects of Krishna consciousness, which we may not be familiar with. And here we have one here which I was not really familiar with, that there are 2 stages of God realization: sugyayam, or very easily understood, generally by mental speculation, and durgyayam, understood only with difficulty. So Paramatma and Brahman realization is sugyayam, easily understood, but realization of Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is durgyayam, understood only with difficulty. So here it's described that one gets the ultimate realization of the Lord when one gives up activities of the mind, thinking, feeling, and willing. In other words, when mental speculation stops, to put it into perspective. And this is above susupti, or deep sleep. Yeah. In the conditional stage, we perceive things through mental experience and remembrance. In the subtle stage, we perceive in dreams. So the process of vision involves remembrance, but it also exists in a subtle form. So above the gross experiences and the dreams is susupti, or deep sleep. But when one comes to the completely spiritual platform, transcending deep sleep, he attains trance, Vishuddha Sattva, or Vasudeva Sattva, and there the Lord is realized. So on we go into the second paragraph of the purport. Prabhupada refers to famous verse. It appears in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu in the introduction. Atakshi Krishna Namadi Naba Vedgrayam Indriyai. That as long as we're on basically the material platform, the sensual platform of duality, realization of the Lord is not possible. But Sevan Mukhahi Jivado Swayameva Spurachada, when we engage our senses in the service of the Lord, specifically the tongue, jiva, Sevan Mukhahi Jivado, the tongue by chanting and by tasting Krishna Prasadam with a spirit of service, then the Supreme Lord is revealed. So this is indicated in this verse by the word Suchi Sadmane. Suchi Sadmane means the platform of uncontaminated purity. So Daksha is offering obeisances to the Lord, who is revealed on that platform of Suchi Sadma, or uncontaminated purity. So in this regard, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur quotes Lord Brahma 10:14:6. One whose heart has become completely purified, my Lord, can understand the transcendental qualities of your Lordship and can understand the greatness of your activities. And on we go to verses 27 and 28. Just as great learned Brahmins who are expert in performing ritualistic ceremonies and sacrifices can extract the fire dormant within wooden fuel by chanting the 15 Samadhini mantras, thus proving the efficacy of the Vedic mantras, so those who are actually advanced in consciousness, in other words, those who are Krishna conscious, can find the Supersoul, who by his own spiritual potency is situated within the heart. The heart is covered by the three modes of material nature and the 9 material elements. Material nature, the total material energy, the ego, the mind, and the 5 objects of sense gratification, and also by the 5 material elements and the 10 senses. These 27 elements constitute the external energy of the Supreme Lord. Great yogis meditate upon the Lord, who is situated as the Supersoul Paramatma within the core of the heart. May that Supersoul be pleased with me. The Supersoul is realized when one is eager for liberation from the unlimited varieties of material life. One actually attains such liberation when he engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord and realizes the Lord because of his attitude of service. The Lord may be addressed by various spiritual names which are inconceivable to the material senses. When will that Supreme Personality of Godhead be pleased with me? That's very profound. So anyway, Prabhupada makes the point that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, commenting on this verse, uses the word durvigyayam, very difficult to realize, We just encountered that. So that the pure stage of existence is described in Bhagavad Gita 7:28. If you know that one, let me read the translation. Persons who have acted piously in previous lifetimes and in this life, whose sinful actions are completely eradicated and who are freed from the duality of delusion, engage themselves in my service with determination. Now, there's quite a mighty purport here. It's a big one, pretty big. So let's just carry on and make our way through. So second paragraph, Prabhupada says that elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita chapter 9 verse 14, Krishna says, famous verse, let me just read it. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantas chadridhavrata namasyantas chamam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. And third paragraph, so one can understand the Lord after transcending all material impediments. And therefore Lord Krishna speaks Bhagavad Gita chapter 7 verse 3, another famous verse, Manusyanam sahasreshu. Out of many thousands among men one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. And then the fourth paragraph, generally to understand Krishna one has to do severe penances and austerities, but since devotional service is perfect, just by doing devotional service, one can easily come to the spiritual level and understand Krishna without having to do those severe penances and austerities. So the Lord confirms this in Bhagavad Gita 18:55, another verse, well-known verse, which we've come across on quite a number of occasions as we make our way through Bhakti Vaibhava. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanyaschasmi tatvataha tatomam tatvato gyatva vishate tadanantaram. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Yes, famous verse gets quoted regularly here in Bhakti Vaibhava, in the Bhagavata. Fifth paragraph. So even though the Lord is difficult to understand, Duravigyaya, it's easy if we follow the prescribed method, means we do devotional service and really do it. Like pure devotional service, ideally, beginning with Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur quotes the Bhagavatam 2.8.5, that the process of hearing and chanting enters the core of the heart, and in this way one becomes a pure devotee. Just keep on hearing and chanting. So if one continues, then one comes to the stage of transcendental love, and then appreciates the name and form, etc. of the Lord. In other words, the pure devotee is able to see the Lord despite the material impediments. Then one comes in direct contact with the Lord. And because after all, the impediments, what are they? They're just different energies of the Lord. So when the devotee is eager to see the Lord, he prays, Ainanda Tanaja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavambudo Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Stita Duli Sadrisham Vichintaya. That's Sikshastakam verse 5, it appears as Chaitanya Charitamrita Anchalila 20:32. O son of Maharaj Nanda, Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I've fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. So then, the Lord, if the devotee has that mood of eagerness and surrender and determination and humble dedication in hearing and chanting, then the Lord, being pleased with the devotee, turns all the impediments into spiritual service. How's that? That's good, isn't it? That's really nice. So in this connection, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur quotes Vishnu Purana. Let me just read the purport here, the translation. In the material world, the spiritual energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is manifested as tapa kari, which means causing miseries. Everyone hankers for happiness, but although happiness originally comes from the pleasure potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the material world, because of material activities, the pleasure potency of the Lord becomes a source of miseries. Hare Krishna. Let me read that again. That happiness comes from the pleasure potency of the Lord, originally. But in the material world, because of material activities, the pleasure potency of the Lord becomes a source of miseries. Chlada tapakari. So the false happiness of the material world is a source of distress. But when one's efforts for happiness are directed towards making the Lord happy, then this tapakari element of misery is vanquished. And Prabhupada gives an example: extracting fire from wood is difficult. But when the fire comes out, it burns the wood to ashes. So in other words, experiencing the Lord is difficult for those devoid of devotional service. But everything becomes easier for the devotee, and thus he can easily meet the Lord. And the 6th paragraph. So here these prayers are saying that the form of the Lord is beyond the jurisdiction of material form, and therefore that form of the Lord is inconceivable to the conditioned soul. Yes, but the devotee prays, "My dear Lord, be pleased with me so that I may very easily see your transcendental form and potency." So Srila Prabhupada concludes this substantial purport by saying, non-devotees try to understand the Supreme Brahman by discussions of neti-neti, nisheda nirvana sukhanubhuti. A devotee, however, simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, avoids such laborious speculations and realizes the existence of the Lord very easily. Verse 29. Anything expressed by material vibrations, anything ascertained by material intelligence, and anything experienced by the material senses or concocted within the material mind is but an effect of the modes of material nature, and therefore has nothing to do with the real nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord is beyond the creation of this material world, for he is the source of the material qualities and creation. As the cause of all causes, He exists before the creation and after the creation. I wish to offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Yes, okay, so another fairly substantial purport. So in any person who just manufactures names, forms, pastimes, whatever of the Lord, cannot understand him, because he's beyond creation. This manufacturing means a material program of creation. But the Lord is the creator of everything, so he existed before the creation. He's the creator of the creation. So his name, form, qualities are not materially created things. They're always transcendental. And this is confirmed in that verse which we just came across. Atakshi Krishna Namadi Nabaved Graham Indriyai. Yeah. I hope you all got that first paragraph. It's a little subtle, but it's, I think, not that difficult to follow. Right, so on to the second paragraph. So here Daksha's offering prayers to the transcendence, not someone from the material world. And only fools and rascals think that the Lord is just from the material world, some person from the material world. So the Lord confirms this in Bhagavad Gita 9:11. Another famous verse, so many. Avajananti mam mudha manushim tanam ashritam parambhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. So, we have to get knowledge from a person to whom the Lord has revealed himself. We have to get knowledge from a person who the Lord has revealed himself to. Not someone who just dreams something up out of his materialistic mind. So even Shankaracharya, he was an impersonalist. I mean, he was the impersonalist. But still he said, Narayana Paro Vyaktat, that Narayan, the Supreme Lord, is Paro Avyaktat is actually the term. Para means superior to, Avyaktat, of this material world. So therefore it is not proper for the Lord to be addressed or referred to as Daridra Narayan, poor Narayan, like some people from this living on the streets in this world. Daridra Narayan, that they're forms of Narayan, but he's become poor. It's so insulting and just crazy, actually. Actually, the Lord is always transcendental. In the material world, of course, there's poverty. Oh, there's plenty. But not in the spiritual world. So this Daridra Narayan is a nonsense concoction. Third paragraph. Daksha's pointing out that material designations cannot be names of the Lord. Oh, isn't that a good one? Material designations cannot be names of the Lord. And Prabhupada quotes a phrase also from the Nirukti, or referring to the Nirukti, which is a Vedic dictionary, which Prabhupada refers to from time to time in his writings and classes. So what it means is one cannot properly understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead merely by picking up expressions from a dictionary. but rather we want to worship the Lord not with material names, because the Lord existed before the creation of material dictionaries and names. The Vedas say, Ato vacho nivartante, aprapya manasa saha. The name, form, attributes, and paraphernalia of the Lord cannot be ascertained through a material dictionary. But if we come to the transcendental level of understanding the Lord, we become acquainted with everything material and spiritual. So Prabhupada quotes another Vedic mantra which confirms this. Eva vidadvati mrityum eti. If one can somehow or other, by the grace of the Lord, understand the transcendental position of the Lord, one becomes eternal. And the Lord confirms this in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4 verse 9, another famous verse. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvataha chakvadeham punarjanma naiti mameti sorajuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So if we simply understand the Lord, one goes beyond birth, old age, disease, and death. Therefore, Shukadev Goswami advised Maharaj Parikshit in the Bhagavatam 2.1.5. I'll just read the translation. O descendant of King Bharat, one who desires to be free from all miseries must hear, glorify, and also remember the personality of Godhead, who's the Supersoul, the controller and the savior from all miseries. Verse 30. The Supreme Brahman, Krishna, is the ultimate resting place and source of everything. Everything is done by him, everything belongs to him, and everything is offered to him. He is the ultimate objective, and whether acting or causing others to act, he is the ultimate doer. There are many causes, high and low, but since he is the cause of all causes, he is well known as the Supreme Brahman, who existed before all activities. He is one without a second and has no other cause. I therefore offer my respects unto him. Oh, Daksha. Daksha's come a long way from the time where he was insulting Lord Shiva in his previous lifetime, his previous body. Okay, so let's have a look at the purport. The Lord's the original cause. Bhagavad Gita chapter 10 verse 8 confirms this. He has an intimate relationship with the material world. If it were not part of his body, he would be incomplete. That's an interesting point. So Bhagavad Gita chapter 7 verse 19 says he's the original cause. Vasudeva sarvamiti samahatmas sudurlabhaha. One who knows this becomes the perfect Mahatma. Second paragraph. So Brahma Samhita verse 1, very famous verse, Ishvara Paramakrishna. I'll just read the translation. Krishna, who's known as Govinda, is the supreme controller. He has an eternal blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, for he is the prime cause of all causes. Yeah, so he's the original cause, but he has no cause, because he's the original cause. If he had a cause, he couldn't be the original cause, if you get it. That's pretty simple, logical idea. But he, Govinda, expands in many forms. But they're all him. They're all Govinda. They're all one. So, as confirmed, Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, as confirmed by Madhvacharya, Ananya Sadrishabhavad Eko Rupadya Bedada. Krishna has no cause nor any equal, and he is one because his various forms of Shramsa and Vibhinamsha are non-different from himself. That's interesting. Shramsa means his personal expansions, Vishnu Tattva. Vibhinamsha, that's us. In one sense, we're non-different from him in quality. Verse 31, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the all-pervading Supreme Personality of Godhead, who possesses unlimited transcendental qualities, acting from within the cause of the hearts of all philosophers who propagate various views. He causes them to forget their own souls, while sometimes agreeing and sometimes disagreeing among themselves. Thus he creates within this material world a situation in which they're unable to come to a conclusion. I offer my obeisances unto him. That's amazing, isn't it? That's amazing. He causes them to forget their own souls, these philosophers with different opinions. He causes them to forget their own souls, while sometimes agreeing and sometimes disagreeing among themselves. So he creates a situation where they cannot come to a conclusion. And that's what's going on. All these philosophers and people like that, they have no conclusions, just so many different ideas. So, purport, Prabhupada makes the point that since time immemorial, or since the creation, the conditioned souls have formed different parties of philosophers, but not the devotees. The devotees haven't done that. The non-devotees have different ideas of creation, etc. So they're called Vadis, Prativadis, proponents, counter-proponents. Mahabharata says there are many munis, or mental speculators. Tarko pratishta shrutayo vibhina nasavrishya yasya matam nabinam. All speculators must disagree with other speculators. Otherwise, why should there be so many opposing parties concerned with ascertaining the supreme cause? That was what the verse was saying. There's so many of them, and each one has a different opinion. So there's no conclusion. Second paragraph. Actually, philosophy means to find the ultimate cause. And Vedanta Sutra says, Atato Brahma Jigyasa, human life is meant for understanding the ultimate cause. So the devotees, of course, they accept that this is Krishna, and that is supported by Vedic literatures and Krishna himself. In Bhagavad Gita, for example, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. Bhagavad Gita chapter 10 verse 8. I'm the source of all material and spiritual worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who know this perfectly engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Bhagavad Gita chapter 10 verse 8. So therefore the devotees have no trouble understanding the ultimate cause, but non-devotees have difficulty because there's so many different ideas and groups. Dvaitavadis, Advaitavadis, Vaisheshikas, Vimamsakas, Mayavadis, Swabhavavadis, and each of them opposes the others. So in the West also, amongst the philosophers, so many different ideas. Yes, so third paragraph. You may ask, why are there so many ideas if the ultimate cause is one? Yeah, and Arjuna said to Krishna in Bhagavad Gita chapter 10 verse 12, you're the supreme Brahman, the ultimate, the supreme abode and purifier, the absolute truth and the eternal divine person. You're the primal God, transcendental and original, and you're the unborn and all-pervading beauty. But the mental speculators, the non-devotees, don't accept there's an ultimate cause, like that verse we just read right now is saying. They have vague ideas, those speculators and non-devotees, but actually they're ignorant and bewildered, and they never reach a conclusion. So not only are they ignorant and bewildered and in conflict with each other philosophically, but Prabhupada says, actually they're all envious of the Lord. As Bhagavad Gita chapter 16, verses 19 and 20 says, I'll just read the translation. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, are cast by me into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life, attaining repeated birth among the species of demoniac life. Such persons can never approach me. Gradually they sink down to the most abominable type of existence. So because of their envy of the Lord, they get born in demoniac families. And because of their offenses, the Lord always keeps them bewildered. And Prabhupada says he does this on purpose. The Lord does this on purpose. Because of their offenses, he just keeps them bewildered with all sorts of weird, crazy ideas, getting involved in all sorts of weird and crazy situations. So, fourth paragraph, Prabhupada refers to Parashara Muni, great authority, the father of Vyasadeva. He explains the Supreme Lord as follows. I'll just read the translation. And this is, I'm pretty sure this is Vishnu Purana, because Parashara is the speaker of that. The demoniac speculators cannot understand the transcendental qualities, form, pastime, strength, knowledge, and opulence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which are all free from material contamination. Because of their envy, they can't understand him. And then they think there's no controller. They think it's all just working spontaneously. It's all just working spontaneously. What an absurd idea. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, thus they're kept in constant darkness, birth after birth, and cannot understand the real cause of all causes. This is the reason why there are so many schools of philosophical speculation. 32. There are two parties, namely the theists and the atheists. The theist, who accepts the supersoul, finds the spiritual cause through mystic yoga. The Sankhyaite, however, who merely analyzes the material elements, comes to a conclusion of impersonalism and does not accept a supreme cause, whether Bhagavan, Paramatma, or even Brahman. Instead, he is preoccupied with the superfluous external activities of material nature. Ultimately, however, both parties demonstrate the absolute truth, because although they offer opposing statements, their object is the same ultimate cause. They're both approaching the same Supreme Brahman, to whom I offer my respectful obeisances. Yes, okay, so Srila Prabhupada's purport. There are two sides to this argument. Some say the Absolute has no form, nirakara. Some say he has form, sakara. So the word form is the common factor, although some accept it and others negate it. Since a devotee considers the word form to be the common factor, he offers obeisances to form, although others argue about whether the Absolute has form or not. Second paragraph. So here the word yoga sankhya yo is important. Yoga means bhakti yoga, as the yogis also accept the existence of the Supersoul and try to see the Supersoul in their hearts. Bhagavatam 12:13:1 says, Dhyanavastita tadgatena manasa pasyanti yam yoginaha. Kind of famous line, or a couple of lines. The devotee tries to come directly in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whereas the yogi tries to find the Supersoul within the heart by meditation. So both directly and indirectly, yoga means bhakti yoga. Sankhya means the physical study of the cosmic situation through mental speculation, generally known as Jnana Shastra. The Sankhites are attached to the impersonal Brahman, but the Absolute Truth is actually known in three ways. Some accept him as impersonal Brahman, some as the Supersoul, all-pervading, and some as Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the central point is the Absolute Truth, which is one. Second paragraph. So, although the impersonalists and personalists fight, they focus on the same Parabrahman, the Absolute Truth. In the Yoga Shastras, Krishna is described as follows. Well, it's a Sanskrit statement. Krishnam Prishangambaram Ambujakshanam Chaturbhujam Shankagadad Yudam. Yeah, and Prabhupada says that in this way the pleasing appearance of the Lord's bodily features, his limbs and his dress are described, that he's wearing yellow cloth, he has four arms, he has the club, the conch, and so on like that. That's what the Sanskrit's saying, more or less. So Sankhya Shastra denies the existence of his form, says he has no hands, legs, or name. And Prabhupada refers to Shvetashvatara Upanishad, chapter 3, verse 18. Listen to this. Whew. This is pretty amazing. Talking about the Absolute Truth. He has no feet or hands, yet he is the swiftest runner and can grasp anything. Though without eyes or ears he sees and hears. Nobody knows him, yet he is the knower and the object of knowledge. Sages describe him as the supreme original personality of Godhead. So no legs and hands, but he runs fast and he can accept whatever you offer to him, he can take it. So it all means, what does it mean? It means he has hands and legs, but they're not material. Therefore the Absolute Truth is called aprakrita. He has a Satchitananda Vigraha, as Brahma Samhita verse 1 says, a form of eternity, knowledge and bliss, not a material form. So the Sankhites, the Jnanis, deny the material form, and the devotees know he has no material form. And Prabhupada quotes Brahma Samhita verse 1, that Krishna is the supreme controller. He has an eternal, blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all, but he has no origin. He is the cause of all causes. So anyway, the conception of the absolute truth as being without hands and legs, and the conception of him having hands and legs, is apparently contradictory, but actually both coincide with the same truth about the Supreme Absolute Person. He has no material hands and legs, but he has spiritual ones. So it's not a contradiction. So here the word vastu nishtayo is used. It indicates both the yogis and the Sankhites. It indicates that both the yogis and Sankhites have faith in reality, but argue from different viewpoints of material and spiritual identities. But Parabrahman, Brihat, is the common point. So they're both situated in the same Brahman, but they differ. But they don't really differ, but they seem to differ because of different angles of vision. Yes. Like in a building, the second floor, if you're on the first floor, the second floor is up. If you're on the third floor, the second floor is down. So one's up, the other's down. They're two different things. But they're not, because they're just different angles of vision. Third paragraph. So the directions given in the Bhakti Shastras point one in the perfect direction, because the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktya mam abhijanati. We already read that, the whole verse, some minutes ago. Only by devotional service am I to be known. So the Bhakti Shastras, that's what we should be looking at, and not these, Jnana Shastras, Sankhya Shastras, and all that, Yoga Shastras. So the devotees know he has no material form, whereas the Jnanis just deny material form in general. So we should take shelter of the Bhakti Marg, the path of devotion, then everything will be clear. So Jnanis, sometimes they focus on the Virat Rupa. That may be good in the beginning for materialists, but there's no need to just continuously focus on it. And we can note that when Arjuna in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita saw the Virat Rupa, the universal form, he didn't want to see it just on an ongoing basis. So he asked the Lord, please withdraw it. I want to see ultimately your original two-armed form. So the conclusion is that learned scholars find no contradiction in devotees focusing on the spiritual form of the Lord. And Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, in this regard, Srila Madhvacharya says that less intelligent non-devotees think their conclusion is the ultimate, but because devotees are completely learned, they can understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal. Right, okay. Verse 33. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is inconceivably opulent, who is devoid of all material names, forms, and pastimes, and who is all-pervading, is especially merciful to the devotees who worship his lotus feet. Thus he exhibits transcendental forms and names with his different pastimes. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose form is eternal and full of knowledge and bliss, be merciful to me. Yes, so Srila Prabhupada says the word anama rupa is significant. Sridhar Swami says about this anama rupa term that the word anama, which means having no name, indicates that the Supreme Lord has no material name. But by chanting the name Narayan, Ajamil attains salvation. It means Narayan is not a material name, it's spiritual. So the word Anama indicates that the names of the Supreme Lord don't belong in the material world. So this Hare Krishna mantra is not a material sound. And similarly, the form of the Lord and his activities are not material. But in order to show mercy, particularly to the devotees, but also to the non-devotees as much as they're able to grasp it, Krishna appears here with names, forms, and pastimes, which are all transcendental. But the unintelligent can't understand this. They think they're material, the names, forms, and pastimes. So therefore they deny that he has name or form. Second paragraph. So this conclusion of the non-devotees, that God has no name, and the devotees' conclusion that his name is not material, they are practically the same. So he has no material name, form, or birth, etc., but still he takes birth. And as Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, verse 6, this is spoken in the third person. Although the Lord is unborn and his body never undergoes material changes, he nevertheless appears as an incarnation, maintaining himself always in the transcendental stage of Shuddha Sattva. Thus he exhibits his transcendental forms, names, and activities, and that's his special mercy on his devotees. So the others, they may continue arguing about whether the absolute truth has a form or not. But when the devotee, by the mercy of the Lord, sees the Lord personally, he becomes ecstatic. Third paragraph, the unintelligent say he does nothing. Of course, actually he has nothing to do. He has no duties. But he does everything, because without his sanction, no one can do anything. But the unintelligent, they just cannot see how he's working and how material nature's working under his direction. And Prabhupada quotes Shvedashvatara Upanishad, chapter 6, verse 8. Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate, natatsumas chapyadikas cha drishyate, parasya shaktir vividhaiva shruyate, swabhavaki jnana bala kriyacha. Actually, it's an important verse which gets quoted from time to time. He has nothing to do personally, for since his potencies are perfect, everything is immediately done by his will. Persons to whom the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not revealed cannot see how he's working, and therefore they think that even if there is God, he has nothing to do or has no particular name. Fourth paragraph. His name already exists because of his activities. He's sometimes called Gunakarma Name because he's named according to his transcendental activities. Govardhana Dari, the lifter of Govardhan Hill. Yeah, like that. Like Krishna. Krishna means he's all attractive. This is his name because his transcendental qualities make him attractive. So as a small boy he lifted Govardhan, In his childhood, he killed many demons. These activities are very attractive, so sometimes he's called Giridhari, Madhusudana, Aganishudana, and so on. Because he acted as the son of Nanda Maharaj, he's called Nanda Tanuja, Devaki Nandan, Nanda Nandan. These names already exist, but since the devotees cannot understand the names of the Lord, he's sometimes called Anama, or nameless. And this just means he has no material names. Yeah. All his activities are spiritual. He's named after his activities, therefore he has spiritual names. But anyway, generally the less intelligent are under the impression he has no form. Therefore he appears in his original form as Krishna to carry out his mission, the battle of Kurukshetra, protecting the devotees, vanquishing the demons. It's all his mercy. So for those who think he has no formal work, he comes to show that he does. But he works so wonderfully that no one can do what he does. For example, as apparently a human, he married 16,108 wives. This is impossible for a human. Yeah, but particularly that he lived with every single one individually, simultaneously. Krishna. Yeah. So he does these things just to show how great he is, how affectionate he is, how much love he has, and how merciful he is. So Srila Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, although his original name is Krishna, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, that's Bhagavatam 1.3.28. So although his original name is Krishna, he acts in unlimited ways, and therefore according to his work, he has many, many thousands of names, or an unlimited number of names. So there you go, devotees. I mean, this is all very deep. It's all very deep, but, you know, it's very interesting and it's very revealing, actually. So, anyway, we will come back. This next verse 34 is the last verse in the section. Yeah. But, you know, it's got a long purport. There's no question of going through it all now properly. So we'll go through it tomorrow and carry on with this chapter. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.